Hello, everyone. Jess Stainbrook here with the Invisible Disabilities Association. And of course, we're in the Love Ideas Summit. And I've got a really special guest, a friend here today, Tevin Lucas. Hello, Tevin. How you doing?
Hey, Jess. Good to see you.
You as well. Tevin joins us from Nashville, Tennessee today to talk about some really cool things. Tevin is actually the founder of the Hope and Love nonprofit, which was formed all about to help folks through mental health and suicide prevention. And so, Tevin, how'd you get into that? I mean, I know you're an athlete, and you've got an incredible athletic story that we want to hear as part of this. But why the mental health side of things? What led you to that?
Mental health has always been something that was a huge part of my life. And after my career-ending injury, what was supposed to be career-ending, kind of talk about that later. But I was traveling, speaking all over the place. I was getting to speak to a bunch of different teams and really share my testimony of what God had done in the midst of my injury and really showing me my true identity and who I was in Christ. And while I was doing that, I felt God just tug on my heart and asked me why I wasn't sharing my full story and my full testimony of what God has brought me through. And that took me back to high school. And in ninth grade, I struggled with depression and was going through a lot of things with my family, at home, abuse, poverty, all of these different things. And got to a point where depression and anxiety was rampant in my life, to the point where I didn't feel like my life was worth living. And as a freshman in high school, nobody would have ever seen it coming. I was a good athlete, good student, had from the outside what looked like an amazing family, which was an amazing family, just some tough things going on, and made the decision that I didn't want to live anymore and attempted suicide. And I look back on it now and I can just thank God for giving me another chance and realizing that my life was worth living, that it is worth living. But sharing that part of my testimony, it wasn't something that I did until I started the nonprofit and realized that I need to attack this epidemic that is not only affecting the younger generation, but also affected me. And really just felt a strong call to it. And then at 21 years old, I lost a close friend of mine to suicide. And that's when I knew, like, this is something that I need to do. This is something that I need to address. I love speaking to sports teams. I love getting to be more motivational, but I saw a need in schools and middle schools and high schools. And I wanted to be able to relate to those kids and let them know that, hey, if you are going through this, if you struggle with depression, if you struggle with anxiety, any form of mental illness, you are not alone. You are not an outcast. You are not a second-class citizen in the kingdom of heaven. I don't care what anybody tells you, that your life is worth living, that you are not alone, and that there is hope. And so really, that's what made my heart so big for, talking about mental illness and suicide prevention, is that it's part of my story. It's probably the biggest part of my story. And God brought me through it and put people in my life to help me get through it, and knowing that he could use me to help others get through it as well.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing some of that. We'll dig into some of the specifics here as well. But, it's interesting. That's why we kind of wrapped our arms around this conference, this summit, of recognizing that there's a lack of hope today. I mean, there's stress, there's anxiety. I mean, I'm talking to you on election day, and holy cow, man, I don't, nobody knows what's going to happen. And it's got everybody almost fearful at that point. And, as COVID and the lockdown and everything has happened, we've seen alcoholism, drug use increase, domestic violence increase, suicide increase. And again, so here we are at this place. I was speaking to a class the other day, and I was telling them that, the hard part is I think there's a timidness on behalf of Generation Z, because there's more chance that somebody's going to come after you online, because the bullies can get you right here. You know what I mean? You're carrying the bullies in your pocket, basically. And it's so horrible. I said, you know, when I grew up, I had to actually go find the bullies for me to bother me, right? So some of that, and again, that's a serious issue in all the stuff that we're dealing with these days. So tell me, I mean, give us the journey. I mean, again, I know some of it started around the athleticism you have. I actually know, and it's fun to brag on that you're in the process of training to try out with some NFL teams, which is really exciting. But I think you bring with you, you know, again, this heart and passion for helping people understand. So yeah, tell us a little about your story, how you got to this point, and again, why this suicide prevention, mental health side of things is so critical in today's society.
Yeah, I'll kind of start. I'll give you a little snippet of the younger me. Grew up with an amazing family, dad, mom. I got two little sisters and an older brother. And growing up, we had what seemed to be a very normal life. But at 11 years old, things kind of changed, and my dad was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and was spent, you know, a few years in and out of the hospital, and not being able to really work anymore, do really anything. And at that point, my mom had to start working 2 to 3 jobs just to provide for me and my sisters and my brother. And it was really tough, and fell into poverty, living off of food stamps, all these things. But in the midst of that, God opened up an opportunity for my brother. He's 2 years older than me, but he's like a foot taller than me. He's 6'8", and he was a phenomenal basketball player. And so God opened up an opportunity to go to this school called Bellarmine Prep. It was this prestigious prep school for sports. And he went there. And then 2 years later, I followed in his footsteps. And it was an amazing opportunity. But he got a couple concussions in basketball. And then on our homecoming night, my freshman year, we were involved in a car accident, and he was left with some brain damage that would have a lasting effect on him, and really messed with his mental, and started getting physically abusive, and took the brunt out of that on me. And so I'm at home. My mom's working. My dad's in the hospital. I have 2 little sisters that I'm trying to take care of, and an older brother that's physically abusive, and really just started battling, really struggling, like I said, and felt like I was all alone. When I was in high school, depression wasn't talked about. I didn't even know what the word depression was. And, but it was something that I was feeling. Now that I can look back and say, why was I sad all the time? Why did I not want to get out of bed? Why did I have this feeling of hopelessness? And I can look back and say, well, that was depression, but back then it wasn't talked about. And so when I looked at really addressing the topic, I wanted to bring it to a forefront to where not only is it talked about, but we understand that depression and anxiety, any mental illness, addiction, all of these things can attack anybody. It has no bias to money, race, whatever. It has no bias. It can attack anybody. And we really just wanted to bring this kind of playing field, I guess, to a forefront and say, hey, this is what this is. If you're struggling with it, that's okay. Let's get help. Let's work together and get past this. Because for me, I felt like I was in it all alone. And
so there's a mentality too, Tevin, around the thing that a lot of times, like you said, because people aren't talking about it necessarily, or there's a thing of, and this happens in the world with, when we talk about invisible disabilities, I mean, mental health, all these things you're talking about are invisible disabilities, right? You can't see it, and somebody go, well, you look fine, you look good, right? But that's not the case, man. There's something going on. And so many times we hear people, you know, kind of say, well, you just need to, you know, pick yourself up by the bootstraps and get going. Well, the biggest thing I say is, well, what if you don't have bootstraps? Exactly. Right? Well, there's a lot of people that your expectation is that they have something, and I think it's everything that we're dealing with today, as far as, you know, diversity and equity and inclusion and all the things like that you hear about, but it's not necessarily an equal playing field, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's so true, and for me, luckily, I was blessed enough to where my family was actually moving right after I made the decision to take my own life. we ended up moving from Tacoma, Washington to Colorado, Evergreen, actually, to be exact. And we went and we were moving from, Washington to Colorado, an extremely diverse area, to kind of like a smaller mountain town. And they were like, let's have a party for this new family moving into town. And they were like, let's have a basketball party. We're Black, so, basketball. And this girl came up to my mom and she was like, hey, we'd love to have your family over for dinner tomorrow night. And we ended up going and we met this amazing family. And I had never met them before. We had no idea who they were, but me and their son really hit it off. And at the dinner table, he asked, hey, can Tevin and Justin, my older brother, can they move in with us? And they didn't really understand the situation that we were in. We were living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom little house with a big family. We just moved to Colorado. And so it was an extreme blessing to get to move in with them. And that friend of mine is actually, I give him so much prop because he's a huge reason of why I'm alive today, why I do what I do today. Because he made the decision. He was really the first person that I opened up to about what I was dealing with. And he was a freshman in high school. I was going into my sophomore year, and he made the decision to walk through life with me. And he said, hey, no matter what you're going through, I'm going to go through it with you. And he didn't have to do that. And he had a completely different situation. He came from an extremely wealthy family that there's so much going for him and all these things. He made the decision to step into the dirtiest, darkest part of my life and walk through it with me, to go visit my dad in the hospital with me, to come wake me up in the morning and help me get out of bed when I didn't want to get out of bed. And it sounds crazy, but it's like I was the paralyzed guy in the Bible. And he was that friend that picked up the corner of the mat and led me to Jesus. And the craziest part about this story is I had grown up in a Christian household, but I don't think I had an actual relationship for myself with Jesus. And their family had started taking us to this church called Red Rocks Church. And this was back when it was just beginning, and really plugged us in. And they took me under their wing, and he literally led me to the place where I met Jesus, and where I felt Jesus telling me that there was hope for my life, that there was a plan and a purpose for my life. And I hadn't felt that ever before. And their pastors came and took me under their wing and said, hey, we know that you made this decision, but that doesn't change how we view you, that you are a son of God, that your life is worth living, that he still loves you, even in the midst of the decisions that you've made. And it really changed my life. And his name's Neil. And because of Neil, I do what I do today. My life's completely different. I'm alive today, a lot of because he saw the hope for my life even before I could see it, and decided to fight for me. You say pick me up, that pick yourself up by your bootstraps. It was really him picking me up and carrying me when I couldn't fight for myself. And so I encourage kids in the midst of that. And really just everybody in general.
Yeah, that's a key component, I think, that you're talking about there, is that we really do need people to walk alongside us that are willing to understand what's going on. Same thing in that invisible disabilities is the space that unless somebody's willing to listen and believe, that's the other part. A lot of times people aren't believed. They'll say something's going on, and again, it goes back to this stereotype of, well, you look fine, you look good, and why can't you just X, ... right? And I'm going to ask the hard question here, Tevin, and that's some people don't have faith as a place to go to. What do you do with that as a conversation, still being able to deal with? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a man of faith, and that's an important part of who I am and how I think, and I know it is for you as well. But I know there's people out there that kind of just, that's off the table. How do we engage? How do we have the conversation that still helps them through this incredibly difficult thing that they're going through?
Yeah, I think when I started the Hope and Love, I was actually a pastor at a church and traveling preaching as well. And one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted this to be a nonprofit that was a non-religious nonprofit. So we actually work with hundreds of public schools. And obviously, at public schools, you can't share that faith aspect. But I also think it's important because I share with people of faith that we are made up of components. We spiritual, mental, and physical. And those three things are supposed to work in this triune beauty together. But if we have our spiritual, but we ignore the mental and physical, and we think that this issue of depression is just a spiritual battle, then we miss a lot of what's going on. So, I think the church has gone more away from this, but it used to be, hey, if you struggle with depression or anxiety, your relationship isn't right with God, when that's just not the case, and it's poor theology. And we have to understand that those three things we have to work together. And so we might not be able to address the spiritual in those that triune, but we can still address the physical and the mental. And I think that even with spiritual, we have to address the physical and the mental. And so obviously the spiritual component plays a huge role, and it's amazing. And like you, a man of faith, that helped me so much. But I also had to learn other tangible steps of physical and mental ways to get back and healthy. And I'm an athlete. I've gone through injuries. I've gone through like all these rehab things for injuries, physical injuries. But it's like an injury when you have a mental illness. You have to take care of it. You have to go get help. I'm not going to break my leg and not go to the doctor and then not go to physical therapy to try to rehab it and learn how to get back to what I want to be and just say, oh, I'll figure it out on my own. And so I look at it when it comes to mental illness the same way, that we have to go to therapists, that we have to get help, be willing to get help to fix the issues of what is going on in our mind. And then on top of that, there's so many natural ways that we can help our body and help our mental state. And physically, I look at working out and exercising, it's like my own personal drug to help my mental state. And I think a lot of people, if they were willing to get out and exercise and do this, it would be and have the same effect on their mental state as well. And we can't ignore those two. But just like we can't ignore those two, we can't ignore the spiritual side of it either. And so I've found it this amazing opportunity. The whole reason that we call the nonprofit the Hope and Love is because I believe that there is hope for everybody's life, and I believe that they are loved no matter what they've done, no matter what they're going through. And I tell them that. And I might not be able to say Jesus loves you in the midst of everything going on, but we pray before every event that the Holy Spirit would work through us, that he would speak through us, that even though we can't say Jesus's name, that he would fill those people's hearts and lives and connect with them. And it's amazing. After these events, we do used to do full school assemblies. I don't know if that's allowed anymore, but we would have people come down and just talk to us and they'd be like, I'm a Christian too. I'm a believer. And we didn't even say anything. Or come up and be like, there was just something moving inside of me and I don't know what it is. And if kids ask us after the assembly, we can talk to them. And so, if they ask us about our faith or ask us about what that might be, we can have that conversation with them. And so it really is this amazing thing that there are so many ways to address mental illness. We have to address all three parts of our human body, though, and we can't ignore one or ignore another. And so when you say, what about somebody without faith? There's still two aspects that we can address that can help tremendously. Very tangible things that I would even encourage people of faith to listen to and do as well. Like, I don't ignore those two. If it's a Christian that I'm talking to, I might focus even more on those two than the spiritual side, because they already have that side. And so That's a great question, but I think, yeah, knowing that those three things have to work in this triune beauty together, and we can't ignore one or the other.
Yeah, and I know that the thing you talked about, I mean, um, when you're dealing with different things like that, literally when you talk about physical fitness is a key, and that doesn't have to be like some huge workout regimen. It
Yeah,
can be just go for a walk, right?
yeah,
Literally just go for a
100%.
walk, walk a dog, something like that. The other side that is really key to this is healthy eating, right?
Hmm.
Putting the right things, you got to feed the machine with the right stuff, right?
Yep.
And that can affect a lot of people as well. I mean, I know that, we went through some things as a family with gluten and food sensitivities and allergies. And it's amazing when you're able to figure out some of those things, how it can change the chemical process, sometimes the things that are going on in your head, right? I
Yeah.
mean, one of my daughters would say, if I eat, something like this and it has gluten, it literally makes me foggy, right? And
Mm.
so there's things like that can really help out. And then, like you said, there's a spiritual component. And again, uh, people can meditate, people can, be
Yeah.
quiet, listen to that still voice, and allow for the process to take part, like you said, that triangle of spiritual, physical, and mental, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's cool. Well, what are some other things that are kind of on your mind of, tangible tips, I think, is if well, maybe part of it is either recognizing in yourself or recognizing in somebody that's really close to you something
Yeah.
that's going on and how to unravel that. What are some tips you've got for that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think that, especially in the midst of everything going on right now, we are seeing, way more mental illness issues than before. And maybe you don't even struggle with a mental illness, but you're going through a season of depression, a season of like, anxiety. I think we have to advocate for ourselves. We have to be willing to put that conversation out there with the people that we love, that will listen to us and talk to them about what we're going through. Because the truth is, especially now more than ever, they would say, me too. And so we have to advocate for ourselves and be willing to talk about it and have that conversation. I also think that being able to see it, like you said, in other people and understanding the easy things to see, sleeping in more than they usually do, not wanting to get out of bed, extreme laziness, like these things we all know. Like right when you hear that, people come to your mind, you're like, oh, like I didn't realize that that might be depression is what they're going through. Like I had a roommate I used to live with that he would sleep almost all day, and my other roommates would be like, what, like, no, he's just, lazy. And I'd be like, no, like he's actually dealing with depression. I don't even think he knows it. And so we were able to talk to him and help him through those things. I think there's simple things as that emotional. Right now we're people are probably more emotional than ever. I know I am. Like I am at an emotional roller coaster right now with everything going on, career wise, life wise. Like everything's crazy. I think I can see in myself, and I know the people around me can see that as well. The people that I let in, and so it's simple things like that that we can see, but we also have to learn to advocate for ourselves. And I always say there's just like simple things. I call them the 6 gets, things that we can do, to help get through what we're going through. And some might sound simple. Like the first one's get up. Literally getting up in the morning is a huge thing. Like get out of bed, set an alarm, get up. That's number one. And for me, that was so hard sometimes because in the morning, I feel like I have this huge weight on my chest and I can't even get up out of bed. So one, get up. We have to fight to get up. Number two, get moving. We have to, like we were saying, be active, whether that's going for a walk, a workout, whatever that is. Number three, get outside. We're in this quarantine. This feels like isolation. We need to get some fresh air. Our body needs fresh air. Just get outside, like you were saying, go for a walk, go meditate outside, go to a park, just be socially distanced, but just get outside. It helps a lot for our bodies. Get together. We have this amazing way with technology now that we can get together face to face. Like we're literally halfway across the country from each other and we're talking face to face. We have FaceTime, we have Zoom, all these amazing things. that we can still get together. We don't have to be isolated in isolation. Like, we can be together in the midst of isolation. And so I think we have to do that, whether it's phone calls, FaceTimes, kids, video games, hop on a headset, play with your friends. These types of things are amazing ways to get together. And then the last two are get real. We have to be authentic. We have to be transparent and be honest with one another and get real about the things that we're going through, about the things that we're feeling, because it not only opens up you and like lets you get out the feelings that you're having, but it also allows other people to get real with you. And the more real we are, the better we do, I believe. And I know for myself, the more real I'm able to be with my friends, with my family, with the people close in my life about what's going on, the healthier that I am mentally. And so get real. And then last, get help. There can't be any stigma around getting help. We have to be willing to get help. Getting help saved my life. I still love getting help. I still see a therapist. I help, and you know this, but I help athletes and celebrities get help. Like, I literally walk through life with them when they are going through stuff. And so it's we can't have a stigma around it. We have to be willing to get help and talk about getting help and help people that we know need help get help. If you have a friend that's really struggling, help them get help. Maybe it's going to the therapist with them if they don't feel comfortable for the first time. Literally simple things like this, the 6 gets, as I call them. But these are amazing tools and simple things that we can do to advocate for ourselves in the midst of everything going on.
Well, tell me, I really appreciate one, Tevin, just you're, like you said, man, you're so real. I love being around you and because stuff pours out of you that at your, I'll say, young age compared to me, but wisdom, great wisdom from the things that you have experienced and really, have put you to the test. You continue to live in those things and deal with them, and then help others deal with them, which I think is incredible. So keep up the good work. How can people find the stuff you're working on, the things that are going on? How do they get to the Hope and Love thing that you're doing?
The Hope and Love, mostly Instagram is probably the best way to keep up with me and the Hope and Love. We do everything on there. Obviously, the Hope and Love's kind of been put on hold with the pandemic, not doing as many assemblies, but we're doing programming, videos, stuff like that. But yeah, Instagram, Tevin Lucas, I have all my stuff, and then the Hope and Love also on Instagram. But yeah, we have some exciting stuff going on. It's been chaos in the midst of the pandemic, but trying to take advantage of everything going on and do whatever we can to help out. And so thank you seriously for what you guys do with Invisible Disabilities. Seriously, it's amazing hearing you talk about it over the last, I feel like it's probably been almost a year since we've been talking, and so I love what you guys are doing, and just very thankful that I could come on and share whatever I can share. Want to open up, the things that I've been through in my life to help whoever I can. And so thank you for having me on. It's seriously been a blessing, and love just getting to build this relationship with you.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess.